President Trump's meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel in the Oval Office. Let's listen in.
It's lasted a long time. We're glad it's over. It's 100% the way it should have been. I wish it could have gone a lot sooner, a lot quicker. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country. And hopefully that people that have done such harm to our country, we've gone through a period of really bad things happening. Those people will certainly be looked at. I've been looking at them for a long time, and I'm saying, why haven't they been looked at? They lied to Congress. Many of them, you know who they are. They've done so many evil things. I will tell you, I love this country. I love this country as much as I can love anything. My family, my country, my God. But what they did, it was a false narrative. It was a terrible thing. We can never let this happen to another president again. I can tell you that. I say it very strongly. Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Keep on repeating president.
Thank you very much.
Some Israelis fear that after this gift there will be a demand for concessions. Will America demand concessions after this gift?
Up to the Attorney General, but it wouldn't bother me at all. Up to the Attorney General, wouldn't bother me at all.
All right, so there you hear reporter shouting questions. At the end, the president said, up to the Attorney General, wouldn't bother me at all. I assume that means if he is ready to see more of the Mueller report, if not all of the Mueller report, released to Congress and to the American public. Abby Phillip, you were listening very carefully. The president had very strong words for his opposition, saying they did treasonous things, they were evil. We can never let this happen to another president again. Extremely sharp. You can see how angry he is.
Right. Yeah, that's right, Wolf. I mean, this has gone from the president being kind of elated over the result of the Mueller probe to him shifting to looking at the people who, in his view, prompted this investigation to come into existence. He's clearly angry about it. He clearly is thinking about what to do next. I think that's one of the big questions facing the president and facing the White House. He mentioned yesterday when he was talking to reporters in Florida that he wants people to look at the other side. Now today he's talking about the evil people who were involved in this, hoping that this never happens to anyone again. But what does that mean? Is he going to then turn this around and ask his Justice Department to launch investigations into his political opponents, into people within the Justice Department who were involved in the investigation at the beginning? I think that seems like where President Trump is going with all of this. And you were right that the question that he got at the end was about whether he wanted the report to be made public. He said it's up to the Attorney General, which it is, and it wouldn't bother him at all. So, you know, he said that in the past. I think a lot of people wondered whether he still felt that way after all that we've now learned about this investigation, given how positive it was for him. I guess it's not much of a surprise that he wouldn't mind it being released. But of course, his attorneys have some other concerns about information related to his interview that might cause it to not be a full and complete release that the Democrats have been asking for.
All right, Abby, thanks very much. Let's get some more reaction. Mark Lauder is joining us right now. He's the Director of Strategic Communications for Trump 2020, the re-election campaign. Mark, thanks very much for coming in. So the president now all of a sudden says he believes Robert Mueller acted honorably. You heard that in the first photo op with the Prime Minister of Israel. That's in sharp contrast to what we've been hearing from the president about Mueller and his investigation over the past 2 years.
Well, it's nothing unusual to have special counsels and people like this in multiple administrations that they face the brunt of criticism from both sides. One time they're hailed, then they're later attacked from the other side. So I don't see anything unusual about that. What I think is we have the conclusions. We have the fact that there's no obstruction, there's no collusion, and it's now time for the American people to move on.
I'll play a little clip of the president over the past couple of years speaking about Robert Mueller because it's in sharp contrast to what he just said about him acting honorably.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign. This is a pure and simple witch hunt. I think that the Mueller investigation has been totally discredited. Mr. Mueller is highly conflicted. In fact, Comey is like his best friend. Robert Mueller put 13 of the angriest Democrats in the history of our country on the commission. It's all a big hoax. I call it the witch hunt. It's all a big hoax. This was an illegal takedown that failed. And hopefully somebody's going to be looking at the other side.
So now he's saying that Mueller did act honorably. You think the president should actually... He obviously likes the conclusion that there was no collusion, no conspiracy, no cooperation. The obstruction of justice a little bit more, confused. But do you think he should apologize to Robert Mueller, who's spent so many years in government service, served in as a Marine in Vietnam, now is 74 years old? Came back and did this job.
I think if anybody deserves apology, it's the president. I mean, he for 2 years got accused of being a traitorous.
So you think Mueller should apologize?
Not Mueller, but I think what we saw for 2 years, we saw people attacking the president of the United States, called him, an operative of Russia, questioned the legitimacy of his election. We now know that was all built on the hoax. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. And so while
but should the president thank Mueller? Should the president say to him, you know what, we had our rough times. Let's move on. I want to thank you for your service to the country. You did act honorably, without necessarily, I know the president doesn't like to formally apologize, but maybe do something like that to move on to a new chapter.
I think we saw just there at the end of that news conference earlier. I think he said that he acted honorably, and so that's an acknowledgement of the fact that he found the truth, which is that there was no collusion, no obstruction, and now it's time to wrap this up and move on.
And you want, you're obviously in charge of the re-election campaign, strategic communications. You want, as the president just said, he has no problem releasing all of the Mueller report to Congress and the American public. He said it's up to the Attorney General.
And the Attorney General has been very clear. I think the President's been very clear as well. There is information from grand jury testimony to classified information to information that may be derogatory to someone not charged with a crime that longtime precedent in federal law would prohibit from being released. But what we have to see here is that, as you see more and more Democrats call for the release and all of the underlying information, despite the fact that it's against the law to do most of that or long-held precedent, this is just another...
The Attorney General can release whatever the Attorney General wants if he thinks it's in the public interest.
This is another example of just changing the rules when they don't like the outcome.
Mueller specifically is quoted in Bill Barr's report to Congress as saying, as far as obstruction of justice is concerned, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Do you want at least to release all the information that convinced Mueller that it's a question whether or not the president committed a crime or whether he should? What led Mueller up to that decision?
Well, ultimately, the Attorney General will determine what can be released on that. I think the key takeaway is that there was no crime that was charged. The Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, other departments, outside legal counsel, the Office of Legal Counsel, all concluded it did not rise to a crime. And in the United States, we're innocent until proven guilty, and so no crime has been charged, no obstruction.
Well, there have been plenty of crimes charged by Mueller over the past 2 years.
As it relates to this.
Right, but a whole bunch of other crimes. Mark Lauder, thanks very much for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.